Welcome to the Jeremiah Patterson Show, and thank you for joining me today. There is a lot going on in the news right now. First of all, the Epstein files has been a huge center of attention regarding, of course, Donald Trump's relationship with him, as well as the failure to release those files has led to outrage among Donald Trump supporters, and even for a vote to be called on it in the House for the files to be released, leading to House Republicans, a majority of them, voting against it, literally voting against releasing the files of associations with a pedophile. And so the pressure is ramping up on Pam Bondi and the White House for those files to be released. We're going to have reporting on that tonight, as well as updates on the Texas flood and now New Jersey and New York being flooded as well. So all of that is coming up and more. But we're going to start tonight with a story that is escalating and is becoming more and more concerning. And that is where immigrants and also in a lot of cases, U.S. citizens are going. Where are they going? Because upon detainment, where are they being sent to? I mean, we've already seen the masked ICE agents in the streets. More on that will be released in a special report that we're working on behind the scenes. It's a lot of footage to get through. But we've already seen the masked ICE agents targeting and terrorizing people across the country, abducting people at their court hearings. But where are they going and who has control? Well, we know that, for instance, they are being sent to CCOT. A lot of them are. Which last week, essentially El Salvador told the world that migrants deported there remain under U.S. control. This is contrary to what the Trump administration has said. So migrants being sent to CCOT remain under U.S. control, meaning we have the control to say, hey, torture them or not do this or that. We have that control. And, remember when the Trump administration said that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, they didn't have the power to bring him back? That was false. There was also this reporting, of course, from ProPublica back in May, that the Trump administration knew that the vast majority of Venezuelans sent to CCOT had not been convicted of U.S. crimes. We also know that they're being held at Guantanamo Bay in repugnant conditions. Do you remember this terrifying video of Rumeysa Ozturk being snatched off the street in broad daylight and put into the back of a van? That truly horrified the country. Her scream as she is walked to the van, put in the back of it, and they just drive away. This happened in broad daylight. Well, we now know that the ICE agent who grabbed her had to freaking ask an attorney if that was legal. Quote, during a federal trial challenging the Trump administration's effort to deport pro-Palestinian activists, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent on Tuesday testified that the orders to target Tufts University doctoral student Rumeysa Ozturk were so unconventional that he had to seek confirmation on the legality of the arrest. Patrick Cunningham, the agent who oversaw the arrest of Ozturk in March, told the court in Boston that he had consulted a Department of Homeland Security attorney to check that arresting her based on her visa being revoked was legal. Cunningham also said he had no knowledge of any criminal offense she had committed. Ozturk, who was in ICE custody for 2 months, was released in May. Quote, when you receive information from headquarters at this level, top down, you make the assumption that it's legally sufficient, Cunningham, who's in part of ICE, told the court. But I did contact our legal counsel to ensure that we're still on solid legal ground. Ozturk's attorney, Masha Kanababi, said in an email to NBC News that the arrest has, quote, never been about immigration enforcement. Rather, it, quote, has always been about retaliation and punishment on protected speech. We are confident that the courts will continue to uphold the basic principles of a just and free society. End quote. Because, of course, they had to ensure if it was legal or not. Because it was so unconventional, so outlandish, because the grounds of that arrest in which her visa was being revoked, in which she was being targeted, was because she published a pro-Palestinian essay. Because they're going after people who are in support of Palestine right now, and of course, denouncing Israel for its genocide of the Palestinian people, which it is still doing, by the way. Per reporting, we've also learned that the ICE agent was told not to inform Rumeysa Ozturk that her visa was being revoked when she was arrested. Don't tell her, just pick her up. So look at this video again. I mean, they just grabbed her, snatched her off the street, and barely said a word. Barely said anything to her. She didn't know who they were. They could say that they were federal agents, but they had masks on. They were walking in plain clothes to grab her. I mean, thank God she's been released, but we know from public reporting that she was moved around to multiple different detention facilities. And the story with all of these immigrants, of course, is that there is an attempt to bury them in the system so that no one can find them. Mumid Khalil was released last month. Another pro-Palestinian activist who was targeted and kidnapped from his home and moved around in detention facilities across the country. He was denied release to see the birth of his newborn child. Khalil was detained for more than 100 days without any charges, but just like Ozturk, there were threats to deport him. Upon his release, he has now filed a $20 million lawsuit against the Trump administration. In a press release, he said, quote, "Nothing can restore the 104 days stolen from me. The trauma, the separation from my wife, the birth of my first child that I was forced to miss. But let's be clear. The same government that targeted me for speaking out is using taxpayer dollars to fund Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. I will continue to pursue justice against everyone who contributed to my unlawful detention or spread lies in an attempt to destroy my reputation, including those affiliated with Columbia University." Of course, the Department of Homeland Security is denying any wrongdoing. Of course, it's also the same agency where back in May, Kristi Noem, who wrote a book about shooting her dog, literally said before the Senate, she was asked about due process, and then she failed to define it. I mean, she said, due process, isn't that thing, where the president essentially is, given the power to just deport anybody that he wants? No, that is not what due process is. But Kristi Noem said that confidently before the United States Senate. So it's not surprising that we keep getting stories like this. Because this administration doesn't even care. They know that they're violating the law. They know that they're not adhering to court orders, but they still do it anyway. And so last Friday, it was The Intercept that broke this story. Trans people have disappeared from ICE records against congressional orders. So we know that they're being sent to foreign countries, specifically war-torn countries like Libya and South Sudan, but they're also being effectively disappeared in the system entirely. According to this bombshell reporting, ICE has quietly stopped reporting how many transgender people it keeps locked up since February. That's 6 months ago. The agency has rescinded protections for trans people, so now there is a concern about their health and potentially experiencing abuse behind bars because this administration is being so surreptitious about everything that they're doing to migrants when it comes to being put in concentration camps as well as these privately owned detention facilities. It should be noted that this came a month after Trump signed an executive order in January to essentially deny the existence of trans people. According to The Intercept, other politically inconvenient information has gone missing from ICE's website. It shows pages not found. Last month, this inhumane incarceration of immigrants was approved by the U.S. Supreme Court. They said, you know what? You can deport people to countries that they've never been to. You can deport people to countries that aren't their origin country. But of course, the Trump administration had already been doing that, defying the orders of judges. 53 nations were able to get in on this deal, sending more and more people to foreign countries that they had never been to. They are deliberately sending people to poor, war-torn countries notorious for human rights abuses. According to The Intercept, which, if you do not read or support The Intercept, and I I use them a lot on this show for investigative reporting as well as ProPublica, please do. They do incredible, intrepid investigative journalism. But per their reporting, quote, to create this archipelago of injustice, the U.S. government is employing strong-arm tactics with the dozens of smaller, weaker, and economically dependent nations. The deals are being conducted in secret, and neither the State Department nor U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement will discuss them. With the green light from the Supreme Court, thousands of immigrants are in danger of being disappeared into this network of deportee dumping grounds. Quote, the Supreme Court's ruling leaves thousands of people vulnerable to deportation to third countries where they face torture or death, even if the deportations are clearly unlawful, said Leila King, a staff attorney at Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, a group that represents immigrants who filed suit. A recent memo by Secretary of State Marco Rubio revealed that the Trump administration threatened dozens of nations with a travel ban while dangling third country deportation deals to avoid the restrictions. An investigation by The Intercept finds that with this new gambit, the U.S. has reportedly pursued deals with at least 53 countries, including many that are beset by conflict or terrorist violence, or that the State Department has excoriated for human rights abuses. The State Department refused to provide a list of countries with which the U.S. has made agreements to accept deportees from third countries, citing the sensitivity of diplomatic communications. End quote. So, just to be clear, this is human trafficking. Because when we have to start referring to this diabolical practice as deportee dumping grounds, that's human trafficking. That's a visceral description of human trafficking that is occurring right now. And they're forcing other countries to take them. I mean, we already know that in El Salvador, for instance, the Trump administration is paying their president $6 million to imprison the Venezuelan nationals. So what we are seeing is human trafficking occur, where immigrants that are being sent out of the United States, well, many of them are being involved in human trafficking circles, as we're seeing per this reporting from The Intercept. That's where they're going. They're sending them to war-torn countries notorious for human rights abuses. Yet this behavior is continuing. Last week, The Intercept found that yet another example of a diversionary ICE tactic is happening, essentially by saying that ICE is essentially saying that they're going to send them to one place and then they're flying to another. They told migrants that they are being flown to Louisiana and then they landed in Africa. Now, 8 men have been expelled to South Sudan. And today, The Intercept dropped another one. Today, The Intercept reported that the Trump administration has deported 5 men to Eswatini, expanding the global gulag in Africa. The State Department describes Eswatini as an absolute monarchy in severe economic crisis, with credible reports of arbitrary and unlawful killings, including extrajudicial killings, torture, and cruel, inhumane treatment. So again, this is another example of where these people are going. Some of them are in the United States. Some of them are at Guantanamo Bay. Some of them are being sent to CCOT, which the U.S. controls what happens to them. And also, some of them are being sent to countries like Eswatini. I mean, this is terrifying. This is human trafficking that the United States is completely knowing and complicit in. They're not just deporting migrants. I can't really use deporting because that implies that due process was involved. They're not just abducting people and sending them out the country. They're sending them specifically and deliberately to countries that are notorious for human rights abuses, for countries where they are known to kill people, including prisoners from overseas. And the conditions here are no better as well. Last week, we received nefarious reports regarding the Florida concentration camp that the Trump administration is calling Alligator Alcatraz, which is completely unacceptable. knowing the history of this country when it comes to alligators and humans. But it's also a tactic used to dehumanize migrants further, to dehumanize immigrants in this country. It's evil. This was Democratic Representative Maxwell Frost describing the conditions after touring the facility in Florida.
They opened the door. There was about 6 security guards standing there, kind of pushing us back, but we could see in and we could hear everybody. And when those doors opened, what I saw made my heart sink. I saw 32 people per cage, about 6 cages in the one tent. I saw a lot of people, young men who looked like me and people who were my age. People were yelling, "Help me, help me." I heard in the back someone say, "I'm a US citizen." And as we were walking away, they started chanting, libertad, 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 freedom. Um, and looking into these cages, you could see, of course, it was warm and hot within the tent. People were sweating. Some people had taken off the top of their clothing because it was just so hot. Some of them were drenched in sweat. The food we saw is not enough food. They're being fed essentially a small sandwich and a bag of chips. And not just that, but the conditions outside, of course, it's blazing hot. And the fact that into the cage comes from the toilet. Number one, not everyone's going to be able to drink as much water as they'd like to because of that inconvenience, but also it's gross and it's disgusting. And this is where people are being held.
Once again, that was Maxwell Frost, member of Congress there, describing the horrid conditions inside that Florida concentration camp. Really the only thing that we can call it. I mean, think about this. This is a time that we are currently living through. It's not like the United States has never done this before, because there are examples of other camps that the United States has put innocent people in. Are examples of other camps that the United States has done this to. But we are living through a time where so many people are okay with the nefarious, vituperative actions of this administration. All that was just described there in that video by Congressman Frost. That's happening right now on U.S. soil. People are in cages right now. And because of this big evil law, immigration detention facilities are going to get billions more in funding. And so private companies are going to be benefiting, private prisons, are going to be benefiting a hell of a lot more from this, as we've covered here on the show. So why not start banning bond hearings so we can keep immigrants detained indefinitely? Last week, ICE raided a California farm in absolute chaos, landing helicopters and running after people, tackling them to the ground. About 200 immigrants were arrested, 12 were injured, and one reportedly fell 30 feet off a building while possibly trying to run from federal agents. According to his family, he broke his neck and skull in the fall and was placed on life support before dying from his injuries on Saturday. While Trump was watching this, he said, "I should use, quote, whatever means necessary to arrest people who do not obey the law." And then, of course, Tom Homan is just flat out saying, yeah, ICE can just walk up to anybody and take them. Never mind the Fourth Amendment. Mexico is now considering legal action over Jamie Garcia's death during that ICE raid at the farms in Camarillo, California. President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico said yesterday, quote, "We are supporting the family. We are in contact with them, and we're also exploring the possibility of filing a complaint in the U.S. because this is unacceptable. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is currently reviewing the matter. It is very unfortunate that this happened. All of our solidarity and support go to the family. And there must not be another case like this one. That's why the complaint must be filed in the courts over there. End quote. Of course, after these raids, a judge temporarily blocked the Trump administration from conducting these type of raids in Southern California based on race or spoken language, because what they're doing is essentially a reiteration of what happened back in the early 1930s under the Hoover administration, when you essentially had these raids take place in California. And they said, hey, yeah, we don't care about the Constitution. We don't care about their rights. We're just attacking them because they look a certain way, because they're speaking Spanish. Yeah, we overheard them. It's that same tactic that's being used from the 1930s in the United States that's happening again right now. A federal judge said absolutely not. The judge said no way. This is what is happening in the United States right now. This is what's happening writ large. Immigrants are being disappeared. They're being human trafficked. They're being sent out of the country to countries notorious for abuse, for countries that are in war, for countries that are notorious for just killing people, and where they do not have an adequate judicial system that has a rule of law based society. That's what's happening here. We're getting reports of people in cages in the Florida concentration camp. People are being abused, assaulted, killed. This administration is complicit in all of it, as well as the masked ICE agents who are cowardly arresting and attacking individuals in this country. Donald Trump has sought to use the military as a weapon of intimidation. It has not worked. The people are still out there protesting, still out there being defiant, still out there being a part of the resistance. Defiant and pushing back as to what this administration is doing to target immigrants in this country. The Pentagon has officially ended its deployment of 2,000 National Guard troops in LA. But of course, that's just half of the 4,000 that are there. And there also remains 700 Marines still in the city. This comes as we also get reports of, the LAPD attacking protesters. Not necessarily surprising given their track record. But I get that there's a lot happening in the news right now. I get that a lot of it is despondent, and it's horrifying just to turn on the TV to see what's going on in the world. But keep your eyes open. Stay focused. There is a human trafficking ring happening right now in which this government is complicit. They are disappearing migrants into the system so that they can never be found. And it's only a matter of time before it's not just going to be immigrants, it's going to be expanded to other individuals. And that already has been happening, but that's going to become more prevalent throughout the country. Eyes open, heads up, stay focused, be a part of the resistance. We got more to come tonight. Stay with us. Every day we're bombarded with headlines, loud, confusing, and sometimes designed to distract. But behind those headlines is a truth worth fighting for. I'm Jeremiah Patterson, host of The Jeremiah Patterson Show. And for the past 7 years, I've committed myself to uncovering what's real, what's right, and what's too often ignored. From breaking news and deep dive investigations to untold stories in history in today's fight for democracy, this work is my purpose. I don't just report the news, I care deeply about it and what it means. But to keep this work going and growing, I need your support. When you become a paid subscriber to the Jeremiah Patterson Show on Substack, you're not just backing independent journalism, you're fueling truth-telling in a time of disinformation. You're helping amplify voices the mainstream media too often leaves out. and you're joining a community that believes facts still matter. You'll get exclusive content, behind the scenes insight, and subscriber only shows like the Unfiltered podcast and the Resistance one as well. But more than anything, you'll be part of a mission to inform, to expose, and to resist. I do this work because I love it. I do this work because it matters, and I do this work because it is essential. Because I believe journalism should serve people, not power, and because the truth still matters. So if my work has ever informed you, inspired you, or made you think, please consider becoming a paid subscriber today on Substack for just $7.99 a month or $75 a year. Now back to the show. Do you remember when Donald Trump said that he didn't know who Prince Andrew was after it was revealed that Prince Andrew was a frequent visitor of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein's island? Watch.
Prince Andrew stepping down from his royal duties.
On who?
Prince Andrew stepping down from his royal duties.
No, I don't know Prince Andrew, but that's a tough story. It's a very tough story. I don't know him, no.
What? I don't even know the guy. Why are you asking me questions? I swear it's always something different with him. In a 2000 interview with People magazine, Trump had all these great things to say about Prince Andrew. Quote, he's not pretentious. He's actually a lot of fun to be with. Another observer said, quote, Maxwell seems to think so too. She and the Duke, who have been romantically linked since April, seem like co-conspirators, talking, laughing, and enjoying the party. They were together the entire evening. Maxwell, as in Ghislaine Maxwell, the longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who helped aid Epstein's child sex trafficking ring. She helped coerce them and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. There has been a lot of talk about the Epstein files in recent weeks, and also the failure to release them. And you notice how every time that Trump is asked about this, he tenses up and he gets all, defensive. Now he's telling his supporters, shh, enough about this. It's just a Democratic hoax. That's what he's telling his supporters. Forget about it. Okay then, release the files. If it's a Democratic hoax, release the files. No matter who's in it. I mean, he really doesn't want the files to come out. And now Attorney General Pam Bondi, who said back in February that the files were sitting on her desk, she has to dance around the questions about the files too. It's like a new thing with this administration.
A few months ago on the South Lawn, he said that he would support you releasing additional credible evidence from the Epstein investigation. Is that something that you are open to doing? He said this just a few months ago.
Let me take that first. This today is about fentanyl. This is about a wall of people right outside this room who have died from, I appreciate your question, but this today is about fentanyl overdoses throughout our country and people who have lost loved ones to fentanyl. That's the message that we're here to send today. Nothing about Epstein. I'm not going to talk about Epstein. Go ahead.
And so too.
We're not going to talk about the files, okay? We're not going to talk about Epstein. No questions about Epstein, please. Apparently, 211 House Republicans also think the same thing. They blocked a Democratic attempt to force a vote on the release of the Epstein files. All Democrats voted in favor. All Republicans were opposed. They didn't even want to allow verbal debate about it. So let this be known that the Republican Party protects pedophiles and sexual abusers. Oh, wait, we already knew that because they literally nominated a guy convicted for it to be their nominee for president. But hey, this is the party of protecting children. Despite House Republicans' protection of their dear leader, other members of Congress think that we should be talking about Epstein. Republican Senator Josh Hawley wants Ghislaine Maxwell to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. And Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett wants Pam Bondi before the House Judiciary Committee to face questions on this as well.
We should be calling in Pam Bondi. We should put her under oath to testify in front of judiciary on the House side.
About Epstein?
About Epstein, absolutely.
What do you want to know?
Well, first of all, she said, oh, I've got the files on my desk. Then the next thing you know, she said, well, wait a minute, there are no files. Which one is it? When were you lying? And why are you lying? What is the cover up? We know that your boss indicated that he was going to release the files. What is the holdup on releasing the files? And how are you going to go about determining what is relevant?
Remember Bondi? Remember Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director, and Kash Patel, the FBI director? All of these guys are facing scrutiny right now and even considering resigning as the pressure is ramping up. Because for them, remember that they were the loudest about this. They were the loudest beating the drum about release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. And now they're all involved in this, and it's a huge cover-up. Remember everything that they said, right?
Please do not let that story go.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is I mean, there's
that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
And this is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
We're following the situation out of Texas as we're continuing to learn more about the floods there. According to new reporting by the Associated Press, FEMA removed dozens of Camp Mystic buildings from their 100-year flooded map in Texas in response to appeals as they were fielding hundreds of calls and only were answering some of this. Of course, we know this because Kristi Noem, the dog killer Secretary of Homeland Security, was on the news speaking about this after a lot of people were let go of. And so answering the phones at FEMA was really something that was not really working. And so apparently now she's saying that Trump only wants to change FEMA a little bit, not exactly to get rid of it completely. We only want to, basically remake FEMA. We want to remake FEMA. We don't want to get rid of it. Absolutely not. Why would we want to get rid of FEMA? Did we say we wanted to get rid of FEMA? We also know that where this flooding happened in Kerr County, they got $10 million from the Biden administration for flood prevention, for a flood prevention system. And they essentially redirected those funds, to give themselves pay raises and to give it towards law enforcement. Never mind actually investing in our infrastructure because, the communist totalitarian Biden administration we can't accept money from them. But hey guys, we're still going to accept the money. We're just going to use it for something else. So again, we're seeing more and more how this flood out of Texas is a complete example of the leadership, not only of this administration in terms of the budget cuts and the firings to the National Weather Service and NOAA, but also the leadership in local Texas and Kerr County being completely incompetent here, putting politics over lives. We saw major flooding this weekend out of New Jersey as well as New York. 2 people have been killed. According to reporting from The Guardian here, essentially this is going to be getting worse. How the climate crisis essentially is going to make rainstorms larger. According to the reporting here, it says, quote, Monday's night downpour was one of the most intense rainstorms in New York City's history. The kind of storm that That's now happening much more often due to climate warning. More than 2 inches of rain fell in New York City's Central Park in the 7 p.m. hour on Monday evening, part of a regional downpour that filled the city's highways and subway tunnels and prompted several water rescues. Rains were even more intense elsewhere in the region. More than 2 inches of rain fell in just 30 minutes in Brewster, New York, in the Hudson Valley. In Union City, New Jersey, more than 6 inches of rain fell in little more than an hour, and at least 2 people died as the vehicle they were traveling in was washed off the road. Phil Murphy, the New Jersey governor, declared a state of emergency due to the heavy rainfall and advised people to avoid unnecessary flooding. Jersey is flooding. I've never seen the highways flood. This is crazy. The climate crisis is literally outside right now, wrote one person from New Jersey on social media. End quote. So as the climate crisis is getting worse and we're seeing more cases of natural disasters across the country, and of course hurricanes only intensifying as scientists have been telling us for years, we are going to be seeing more cases just like this. And of course, the terrifying part is that the Trump administration has decided to defund the agencies that are tasked with investigating and doing research on this. This is a problem. The attack on science, the attack on scientific institutions, the attack on the National Weather Service, the attack on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They don't care. We're going to have more problems tackling these crises because of what this administration has done. And a lot of it is not repairable. But here we are, with these major floods out of New York City and New Jersey earlier this week. This is where we are, and it's only going to get worse. Thank you everyone for watching this video here on the Jeremiah Patterson Show. I'm so glad to have made it through the evening news show. I did not get this out by 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm aware of that because of essentially what was happening here with the editing app as well as my laptop. You know what? Because of this job being so demanding and I make a bunch of long videos and I do a bunch of investigative reporting, eventually I'm going to have to get a whole new computer as well as another iPad because the storage capacity is gone. I need to upgrade, so I will work on that so I can get these videos out faster to you all. But I do appreciate your support as well as your gracious comments as always. As always, you can follow the Jeremiah Patterson Show on Blue Sky and Substack at TJPS News. We're also on YouTube at the Jeremiah Patterson Show. You can email me, of course, tjpsnews@gmail.com. If you want to support this work because this is independent journalism and we do rely on your donations to continue this crucial work, you can support the Jeremiah Patterson Show on Cashapp at TJPS News, as well as on Venmo and PayPal at the same name. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Jeremiah Patterson Show. I'll be back tomorrow for the big resistance protest. Special guest, of course, our resistance crash course. That much anticipated special report is going to be coming out tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Very special guests on the way. I have an interview with them in just a moment, so stay tuned. But of course, eyes open, heads up, stay focused, be the resistance.